Coming to paperback and e-readers, Isis Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Isis Dark Incubus at Amazon.com and other online booksellers everywhere. Last week, Disney CEO Bob Iger confirmed that Marvel Studios will be reducing its output as related to Marvel Cinematic Universe content. Now, according to reports, Bob Iger is confirmed to say that the MCU TV series would only be 2 series per year, while 2 to 3 feature films would be released. Now, in the past, as related to Marvel Studios was releasing a lot of content to the point where viewers were getting overwhelmed. And as viewers got overwhelmed by this torrent of content that basically flooded the Disney Plus streaming service, many viewers basically were not really interested in watching this content because even though Marvel Studios was producing a lot of content to build a larger Marvel Cinematic Universe, it was of extremely poor quality because Marvel Studios hired a lot of inexperienced writers to work on their material, like their failed She-Hulk Attorney-at-Law series. Now, Marvel Studios, as it looks to reduce its output of content, is looking to try to allegedly improve the quality of their upcoming releases by looking to focus on quality instead of quantity. Because according to Bob Iger, in a previous statement, he said that the big problem at Marvel Studios was that they had produced way too much content, and because they produced way too much content, viewers basically wound up getting frustrated and overwhelmed because as they looked to try to, 1, watch all of this content, they did not have the time to watch it, and 2, the content was of extremely poor quality, and it was of such poor quality that it was getting cooked and roasted on social media. Now, when I look at Bob Iger's statement, it looks like he's trying to turn things around as related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has gone into a major state of decline since Phase 4, which was a part of Avengers Endgame. And ever since Avengers Endgame concluded the first big overreaching story arc of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been in a major state of decline, and it's been in a major state of decline because the quality of the storytelling basically fell off because there was no real vision of what kind of stories to tell after Avengers Endgame concluded the Infinity Saga. Now, after the Infinity Saga concluded, Kevin Feige wanted to go and start building towards a multiverse saga. Unfortunately, this multiverse saga was a completely jumbled mess that's kicked off with the film Eternals, and the big problem with the film Eternals was 1, they got an inexperienced director in Chloe Zhao. 2, they got a concept that basically was extremely obscure as related to the Marvel Universe. And 3, the characters were not very compelling as related to being as interesting as like characters like Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America. No, the Eternals weren't very interesting. Moreover, they were not good lead characters to guide people through the larger Marvel Universe. Moreover, they also did not have any sort of organic connection to the previous Infinity Saga. And these elements basically damaged the entire foundation of Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and basically derailed the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe because there was no character to answer the critical question that screenwriters like myself have to answer, and that question is, why should we care? It's hard to care about a cinematic universe where the 3 characters we had a connection to were basically had their stories. And I mean, Tony Stark was killed at the end of Avengers Endgame. Steve Rogers turned himself into an old man and gave up being Captain America, passing the shield on to Sam Wilson. And Thor basically was a neutered version of the character. So all of the characters we had a connection with, like Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America, and the Incredible Hulk, basically were neutered. And without them to guide us into the larger part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that world started to decline as related to people having interest in it. And this is what led to Marvel's Cinematic Universe having the foundation for its just big slump. Now, as this was going on, Kevin Feige thought he could go out and create new characters to replace the older ones. Unfortunately, in his effort to try to create new characters to replace the older ones, they did not connect, and many of the series that he basically created to be a part of this larger Marvel Cinematic Universe with these secondary and tertiary characters, they really did not catch on because of the poor quality writing and the overall rush to try to make content for the new Disney Plus streaming service. So this rush to make content basically destroyed all of the quality of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And what Bob Iger hopes to do is by reducing output, he would be able to improve the quality of these releases. Now, when I look at Bob Iger's whole plan, it's destined to basically fail again, and it's going to fail again because he's basically thinking he can do this like a mathematical formula as related to creating success for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but that mathematical formula he's trying to create is inherently flawed because he says he wants to do 2 MCU TV series per year and 2 to 3 feature films instead of 4, and that's still way too much content to be producing as related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, as I see it, the big problem with the Marvel Cinematic Universe has to do with the overall plan to try to structure making so many releases, because the big problem that happened with the Marvel Cinematic Universe is as the studio started to get greedy for more money at the box office, they kept releasing lots of content, not understanding the more content you produce basically dilutes the value of that product. And with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even if you're producing 2 to 3 films per year, it's still way too many films, because when it comes to films, it needs to be special, it needs to be an event, and it needs to be something that people can build up their anticipation for. That's why you build the excitement for these movies, and that's what made these movies special. And that's the big problem with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is that it's no longer special. No, it's on some sort of schedule, and that schedule makes it where you don't really appreciate how great these movies can be, because they're just going to come out every couple of months in a year, and that makes it where people just don't have an incentive to care about these movies. Now, before, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, again, what made them special was that you really didn't know when they were coming, and as they came out over the course of a year, what you could do was build a buzz and build excitement for that movie, and as you built that buzz and that excitement for that movie, it became an event. It became something special you wanted to go to. That's what made MCU movies so special from 2008 to, I say, about 2012 with the Avengers, was you got this just exciting build-up to this team. And as you got this build-up to this team and seeing these superheroes finally coming together in a superhero movie where you saw Earth's mightiest heroes, it was something special to watch. Unfortunately, after the Avengers got made, this is where Disney came in away from Paramount, who made the first Iron Man movie. And what happened with Disney is Disney tried to turn it into a factory process where they could make superhero movies come off an assembly line, similar to the way GM wanted to make GM X-Bodies, like the Chevrolet Citation and the Oldsmobile Forenza and the Pontiac, I believe it was the Phoenix. I mean, they wanted them to come off that assembly line. Unfortunately, as they came off that assembly line, Kevin Feige hired a lot of inexperienced individuals to work on the line. And as that happened, the quality of Marvel Studios films went into a major state of decline, because instead of him hiring people who had experience as related to screenwriting and a passion for the source material of Marvel Comics, he started hiring a lot of inexperienced people, like the woman who was basically running the She-Hulk show, and these people didn't have that passion for superheroes or superhero movies, and that's the reason why Marvel Studios went into a state of decline. And the big problem that Bob Iger has not corrected is going out and looking to find people like myself who have a passion for superheroes and a background in screenwriting to work on the foundation of those stories. And until he deals with that, the quality issue will be a big one, because even though I believe he's reduced his output, he hasn't reduced it enough as related to things, because what's going to happen with Bob Iger as related to the MCU TV series is he's going to wind up with a flood of product once more, because if you're releasing 2 MCU series every year, and those series get renewed for a new season, what that does is it starts to pile up these series, and you start to have the whole saturation issue once more that you had previously. No, when it comes to the MCU, I really believe what they really need to do is cut it down to maybe 1 TV series per year. That's what makes it really special. I mean, you can do 1 TV series per year or 1 TV series every maybe 6 months to make it really special. And then you want to do maybe 1 feature film, because that's going to make it special and build up that buzz and that excitement. Because if you keep producing way too much product, what you're going to do is, again, saturate the market with way too many characters, and that's really what's really doing damage to the entire superhero movie genre right now, is that there is just way too much product in the marketplace and not enough people to view it. And even worse, with the closing of theaters all throughout New York City, like the Concourse Multiplex here in the Bronx, there aren't even enough venues to go be able to screen these movies, and that's really going to hurt Disney's long-term bottom line. And that's what Bob Iger really isn't really thinking about critically as related to the big picture of the entire business of the MCU, because this year, with the closing of all of these theaters here in New York City, movies like Wolverine and Deadpool are going to have to struggle to get box office because there aren't many venues for people to go to. And the whole thing is, while it is the one movie, this is what makes it special for everyone. And this is where things are flying over Bob Iger's head as related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because one movie makes it special, and while you're making that one movie, Disney really needs to stop focusing so heavily on the MCU as a cash cow and start focusing on rebuilding its divisions, like its hand-drawn animated division, which I believe desperately needs to be started back up, because the hand-drawn animated division could basically help Disney as related to dealing with its struggling box office. And if you could get some fresh, new, and original concepts out at a smaller budget, you might be able to offset the possible risk and loss of a superhero movie flopping at the box office like the Marvels or many of these other MCU TV series. And they also need to be focused on making more smaller budget movies. I believe that Disney really needs to start focusing on making more smaller budget movies that are more family oriented, to try to rebuild the trust as related to all of the audiences they've alienated. Because Disney, over the last couple of years, as they've overly depended on the MCU, what they've done is they've not focused on their hand-drawn animation. They've not really focused on their family movies or the other divisions that used to make films like Touchstone Pictures, which made a lot of good PG-13 and are almost R-rated adult films, or films that featured more adult themes. I mean, these were major cash cows for Disney in the 90s. Unfortunately, Bob Iger's tunnel vision on the MCU has really prevented him from being able to diversify the Disney portfolio to make profitable films like they did with Pretty Woman back in 1990, and other films that really made a lot of money, like many of the smaller budget comedies they used to make at Touchstone. I mean, these were the money makers for Disney, but their tunnel vision as related to the MCU again continues with Bob Iger, who thinks that reducing the output will improve the quality of those films. But the whole thing is, what will improve the quality of those films is somebody having a real vision. And that's something Kevin Feige hasn't had as related to Phase 4, and Fail 5, Phase 5. He's just basically been rushing out a lot of content without seeing how it fits organically into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's another problem that Bob Iger really isn't focused on. I mean, with the original MCU, there was a focus on seeing where these characters would fit organically into an overreaching arc, but that kind of care to story isn't being done, and it's really made it where the Marvel Cinematic Universe quality went into this major state of decline. Now, as a guy who built up his own universe of books in the SJS Direct universe, I understand that you again really need to reduce your output to make books special. And when I went out here producing books like the ISIS series, the Esteem series, and the John Haynes series, I understood making one book a year would make it special. And sometimes I would come out here with two, but I've really started to understand that the best way to get people to see a book as special is to make one book a year, because one book a year basically makes it where the person sees the book as special, sees it as something to look forward to, and I can go out here and build a buzz, and build the audience up to anticipate the next book. And again, less is more when it comes to content, and less is more when you have high quality. One of the other reasons why I produce less content is because I want to have high quality, and that's why when I look at Bob Iger's plan, I just don't see it being enough as it things. I mean, again, you want to have maybe one MCU series a year, you want to have one MCU movie a year, and you want to be able to do this to slowly build into your saga and build that anticipation up over the course of maybe 3 to 5 years to a payoff as related to plot point 1 and plot point 2, and build that momentum up like they did for the Infinity Saga, which basically ended 11 years later. I mean, there's no real care as related to laying out the structure of these stories, and that's why the Multiverse Saga has basically fallen completely apart. I mean, it's basically fallen completely apart because Kevin Feige and Bob Iger didn't take the time to craft it the way they did the Infinity Saga, and they're still not really focusing on that quality because they've produced a lot of content that's just basically junk, and this junk content is still clogging up the MCU, and because a lot of stuff has still not been released, like Ironheart. I mean, trash content they basically just need to scrap and take a loss on, because if they release it, it's just going to damage the overall structure of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because these stories don't really work well organically, and the whole structure of the universe has been damaged as related to the whole situation with Jonathan Majors. But when I look at Bob Iger again, he's trying to make a decision, but he's not making the right decision, and that lack of ability to make the right decision basically makes it where the MCU is not, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe won't get back on track, because again, when you're creating content, yes, you want to focus on quality, and you also want to go out here and focus on finding quality people. But the whole thing is, he's still making way too much content, because it's just not special enough to make people care to think about spending any money on MCU content outside of the one exceptional movie like a Wolverine or a Deadpool. You really need to start making these movies special and unique. You really need to make them events. That's what's going to get the Marvel Cinematic Universe back on track as related to momentum. You gotta make the product something fresh and exciting that gets people so excited where they gotta spend money to go see it. That's what you want to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but sadly, under Bob Iger's vision, I don't see it getting that much exciting outside of maybe the fluke movies like Spider-Man No Way Home or the Wolverine and Deadpool movie. Now, if you want to check out some of my action-packed fantasy fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, you can find the books of the ISIS series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, the Spinsterella trilogy, my Black vampire novel Eternal Night, my Black sorority novel The Thetas, and A Recipe for Success, You can find all these books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos talking about comics, science fiction, and fantasy, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Amari's Revenge. The goddess next door is confronted by a Nubian queen out for revenge at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in this inaugural Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Amari's Revenge in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Coming to paperback and e-readers, Esteem Horror in the Hamptons. The aspiring angel tries to escape a house of horrors in this all-new Esteem series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Esteem Horror in the Hamptons in digital format at Amazon.com, Google Play, Draft the Digital, and other digital booksellers, or pick up your paperback copy on May 24th. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.